Sylvester Stallone sits across from three studio executives in a conference room when they slide a check across the table, $25 million. More money than he's ever seen, more money than his entire family has made in 3 generations. The executives smile. They think this is over. They think desperation always wins. But what Stallone says in the next 10 seconds doesn't just shock the room. It changes the entire trajectory of his life, creates one of the most iconic characters in film history, and proves that sometimes betting on yourself when you have nothing is the only bet worth making. Los Angeles, California, March 1976, Tuesday morning, 10 a.m. The United Artists Building on Wilshire Boulevard, glass and steel tower, rising into that California sky that looks like a postcard, the kind of building that announces success, power, money, the kind of building Sylvester Stallone has been trying to get inside his entire career, and now he's here. Finally, but not the way he imagined. The conference room is on the 18th floor, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, leather chairs around a mahogany table that probably costs more than Stallone's car, which isn't saying much because Stallone doesn't have a car, has been taking buses and bumming rides for months. But he's here, in the room where decisions get made, where dreams get greenlit or destroyed, where futures get written. Stallone is 29 years old, wearing the only suit he owns. Bought it at a thrift store 3 years ago for an audition. It doesn't fit right anymore. Too big in the shoulders because he's lost weight. Too tight in the waist because he couldn't afford alterations. The tie is borrowed from his friend. The shoes have a hole in the sole he covered with cardboard. But from across the table, in this expensive room, he looks presentable, looks like someone who belongs here. Nobody can see the desperation underneath. 3 executives sit across from him, all men, all white, all wearing suits that cost more than Stallone makes in a year, which again isn't saying much, because Stallone made almost nothing last year. These are the gatekeepers, the people who decide what America watches, what stories get told, what voices get heard. They have power, real power, the kind that can change lives with a signature. On the table between them sits a screenplay, 120 pages. Title page says, Rocky, in simple black letters, written by Sylvester Stallone. It's been passed around Hollywood for 6 weeks. Most places rejected it immediately. Too predictable. Boxing movies don't make money. The protagonist is a loser who wants to watch a movie about a loser. But these 3 men, they saw something different, something that could work. The head executive, his name is Robert, late 40s, gray at the temples, expensive watch, speaks first. His voice is smooth, professional, the voice of someone who's delivered good news and bad news 1,000 times and knows exactly how to modulate for each. Robert says, Sylvester, we love the script, really love it. It's got heart. It's got authenticity. It's Rocky. It's a great underdog story. And America loves an underdog. Stallone nods. Doesn't speak. Doesn't trust his voice yet. Doesn't want to seem too eager. Desperation scares people, makes them pull back, makes them offer less. So Stallone sits still, waits. Lets them talk. Robert continues, we want to make this movie. We're prepared to offer you $75,000 for the screenplay. That's well above standard for an unknown writer. That's recognition of the quality of what you've created. $75,000. Stallone's brain does the math automatically. That's rent for 2 years. That's food, security, breathing room. That's everything he doesn't have, everything he's been killing himself trying to get. His bank account has $106 in it, has had $106 in it for weeks, because he's too scared to spend anything. One emergency, and he's at zero. Negative, finished. But Stallone doesn't react, keeps his face neutral, waits for the rest. Because there's always a rest. Nothing comes free. Every gift has conditions. Robert says, we're thinking Ryan O'Neal for Rocky. Or maybe Burt Reynolds. Someone with box office draw. Someone audiences know and trust. And there it is. The condition, the catch, the thing that makes $75,000 feel like 30 pieces of silver. Stallone's chest tightens. He knew this was coming. Knew from the moment they called him in. Nobody offers unknown writers $75,000 unless they're taking something bigger, and what they're taking is the only thing that matters. The role, the character, the chance to prove himself as an actor, the chance to be Rocky instead of just writing Rocky. Stallone says quietly, I want to play Rocky. The room goes silent. Not uncomfortable silence, dismissive silence, the silence of adults humoring a child who doesn't understand how the real world works. Robert smiles, patient, condescending, says, Sylvester, you're a writer, good writer. But this is a major motion picture. We need someone who can open a movie, someone with a track record. Someone audiences will pay to see. Stallone says, Rocky is me. I wrote him from my life. I know him. The second executive, younger, more aggressive, his name is Michael, jumps in. Look, we get that. We respect that. But this is business. We're investing millions of dollars. We need guarantees. And no offense, but you're not a guarantee. You've done what? Bit parts, background work, you're not a star. Stallone says, not yet. Michael laughs, not mean, just reflexive. The laugh of someone who's heard 1,000 desperate actors say the same thing. Not yet. Right. Look. Take the money. It's a great deal. Write more scripts. Build your career. But this movie needs a real actor. The third executive, older, quieter, his name is David, hasn't spoken yet. He's been watching Stallone, studying him, reading body language, looking for cracks, looking for leverage. He speaks now, calm, direct. David says, let me be clear. If you insist on playing Rocky, we're not making the movie. It's that simple. We'll pass. Someone else might pick it up eventually, but probably not. Boxing movies are risky. Without a star, it's dead. So your choice is take $75,000 and let us make a good movie with a real actor, or walk away with nothing and watch your script sit in a drawer somewhere. The room waits. 3 executives watching one desperate writer, watching him do the math, watching him calculate survival versus principle, watching him choose between eating and dreaming. Stallone doesn't answer immediately. Can't answer because David is right. Absolutely right. Walking away means nothing. Means going back to the apartment he's about to be evicted from. Means going back to hunger. Means going back to auditions where casting directors take one look at his face and say no. Means going back to being nobody. And $75,000 means not being nobody. Means security. Means vindication. Means proving he can write. Means something. But it doesn't mean being Rocky. And if he's not Rocky, what's the point? He didn't write this character as an intellectual exercise. Didn't create this story as a commercial product. He wrote Rocky because Rocky is every failed audition, every rent check he couldn't pay, every time someone looked at him and decided he wasn't good enough. Rocky is the part of him that keeps showing up, even when showing up seems pointless. And if someone else plays Rocky, if Ryan O'Neal, or Burt Reynolds, or anyone else stands in that ring and says those lines, then the story becomes fiction, becomes entertainment, stops being testimony. Robert tries again, softer now, almost gentle. Sylvester, I'm going to be honest with you. You look like you need this money, and there's no shame in that. This is a tough business. Take the deal, cash the check, live to fight another day. That's not giving up. That's being smart. And that's when Stallone realizes something. These men think they're negotiating, think this is about money, think desperation always converts to surrender if you just wait long enough. They don't understand that Stallone already gave up once, already made the practical choice, already chose survival over principle. 6 weeks ago, outside a 7-Eleven, when he sold his dog for $50 because he was starving, he sold Buttercups, sold the only thing in the world that loved him unconditionally, took $50 in exchange for 3 years of loyalty, and every day since, every single day, that moment has been eating him alive. The shame of it, the betrayal of it, the proof that when push came to shove, Sylvester Stallone chose his own survival over what mattered. He wrote Rocky to process that shame, wrote Rocky as penance, as proof that he could be better than his worst moment. Rocky is about a man who gets one chance to prove he's not just another bum from the neighborhood, one chance to go the distance, one chance to look at himself in the mirror and respect what he sees. If Stallone sells this script, if he takes the money and lets someone else be Rocky, then he's just selling out again, just choosing survival over meaning, just proving that the 7-Eleven moment wasn't an aberration, it was who he is. Stallone looks at Robert, looks at Michael, looks at David, 3 men who don't understand what they're asking him to give up, 3 men who think everything has a price, 3 men who are about to learn otherwise. Stallone says, "No." Just that. 1 word, 2 letters, complete sentence. Robert blinks. No to what? No to your offer. I'm playing Rocky, or we're not making the movie. Michael leans forward, irritation breaking through the professional veneer. You're turning down $75,000 to play a role you're not qualified for. Yes, that's insane. Maybe. David, the quiet one, studies Stallone harder now, seeing something he didn't see before. Respect maybe, or curiosity, or recognition that this negotiation just became something different. David says, "Walk us through your thinking." Stallone takes a breath, tries to explain something he barely understands himself. This character, Rocky, he's not just a boxer, he's every person who's been told they're not good enough, every person who's been counted out, every person who keeps showing up even when showing up seems pointless. That's not a character. That's a state of being, and you can't act a state of being. You have to live it. Ryan O'Neal hasn't lived it. Burt Reynolds hasn't lived it. I have. Every audition I've bombed, every casting director who laughed at my face, every rent check I couldn't pay, every time I've been hungry and scared and completely sure I was failing at life. That's Rocky. And if I let someone else play him, I'm saying all that suffering was just material, just research for a product. But it's not. It's my life. And my life isn't for sale. The room is completely silent. The 3 executives process this. Michael looks annoyed. Robert looks uncertain. David looks intrigued. Robert tries a different angle. What if we increase the offer? Say, $100,000. No. $150,000? No. Michael snaps. What number would change your mind? Stallone looks him in the eye. There isn't one. Michael stands up, done with this. then we're done here. You're making the biggest mistake of your career. But David raises a hand. Michael sits back down. David keeps his eyes on Stallone, assessing, calculating, seeing something the others don't see. David says, "What if we let you play Rocky, but for a much smaller budget, say $1 million total? You'd make scale, maybe 25,000. No back end, no profit participation, just a flat fee for acting and writing." Stallone doesn't hesitate. "Yes." Robert looks shocked. "You're turning down 150,000 guaranteed to make 25,000 on a low-budget film that might never get released?" "Yes." "Why?" "Because in one scenario, I'm a writer who sold a script. In the other scenario, I'm Rocky. I'd rather be Rocky." David nods slowly, looks at his colleagues. Some unspoken communication passes between them. Finally, David speaks. "Okay, we'll do it your way. $1 million budget, you star, you get scale. But if this movie fails, your career is over. Nobody will touch you. You understand that?" Stallone understands perfectly. This is the bet. All in. Everything on the line. If Rocky fails, he'll be the guy who turned down a fortune to play a role he wasn't ready for in a movie nobody wanted. He'll be a cautionary tale, a punchline, proof that you should always take the money. But if Rocky succeeds, Stallone says, "I understand. Let's make the movie." They shake hands. The meeting ends. Stallone walks out of the conference room, takes the elevator down 18 floors, walks out into the Los Angeles sunshine. He has no car, has to take the bus home. Back to the apartment he's about to lose. Back to the $106 in his bank account. Back to hunger and uncertainty and fear. But he's playing Rocky. Against all logic, against all advice, against every practical consideration, he's playing Rocky. The movie shoots in January 1976. 28 days. Brutal schedule. Tiny budget. No room for error. No second chances. Everything Stallone has been saying about knowing Rocky, about being Rocky, gets tested every single day, and he delivers, pours everything into it. All the hunger, all the shame, all the desperation, all the refusing to quit. It's not acting, it's testimony. The movie wraps, goes into editing. Stallone waits, doesn't know if it's good, doesn't know if anyone will care, just knows he did everything he could. Knows he didn't betray Rocky, didn't betray himself. November 21st, 1976. Rocky premieres in New York City. The reviews come in, not good, not decent, phenomenal. Critics love it. Audiences love it. The word of mouth spreads like wildfire. This isn't just a boxing movie. This is something else, something real, something that hits people in places they didn't know they could be hit. The box office explodes. Rocky makes $5 million opening weekend, then $10 million, then $50 million, keeps climbing, becomes a phenomenon, becomes cultural, becomes the movie everyone is talking about, becomes proof that underdog stories matter, that authenticity matters, that heart matters. Academy Awards 1977. Rocky gets nominated for 10 Oscars. 10. Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actor for Stallone, Best Actress for Talia Shire, Best Supporting Actor, Best Screenplay, Best Editing, Best Song, everything. Oscar night, April 28, 1977. Dorothy Chandler Pavilion. Stallone sits in the audience, wearing a tuxedo that actually fits this time, watching the ceremony, watching his movie compete against Network, All the President's Men, Taxi Driver, heavy competition, real competition, movies made by established people with big budgets and major studio support. Best Picture category comes up. The envelope opens. The presenter says, "And the Oscar goes to Rocky." The room explodes. Standing ovation. Stallone walks to the stage, accepts the award, looks out at Hollywood, at the industry that rejected him for years, at the executives who told him to take the money, at everyone who said he wasn't good enough, and he thinks about the conference room, about the check for $25 million that got increased to $150,000 that he turned down to make $25,000. Rocky makes $225 million worldwide, becomes the highest grossing film of 1976, wins Best Picture, wins Best Director, makes Stallone a star, a legitimate, undeniable star. The face that casting directors said was too crooked becomes one of the most recognizable faces on the planet. But more than the money, more than the Oscars, more than the fame, Stallone proved something, proved that betting on yourself when you have nothing isn't crazy. It's the only sane choice. Because what's the alternative? Take the safe money and spend the rest of your life wondering what if, wondering if you could have been Rocky, wondering if you gave up too soon. Years later, decades later, Stallone gets asked about that decision constantly. Interviewers want to know how he had the courage to turn down life-changing money when he was broke, how he knew it would work out, how he was so sure. And Stallone always gives the same answer. "I wasn't sure, I was terrified, but I knew that if I sold Rocky without playing him, I'd be selling myself again. And I'd already done that once, with my dog, and it almost destroyed me. So I decided that even if I failed, even if Rocky bombed, and I never worked again, at least I'd fail as myself. Not as someone who gave up, not as someone who took the easy money, as someone who believed in something enough to risk everything. That's not courage, that's just refusing to betray yourself twice." The $25 million he refused became the billion-dollar Rocky franchise. 6 films, 3 Creed films, merchandise, legacy, cultural impact that spans generations. Kids today who weren't born when Rocky premiered still know the music, still know the training montage, still know the moment Rocky runs up the museum steps, still understand what the movie means. And every dollar of that success traces back to one moment, one decision, one refusal. When a desperate man with $106 in his bank account looked at a check for $25 million and said no, not because he didn't need the money, because he needed something more, needed to be the person his character was, needed to prove that integrity isn't just for people who can afford it, it's for everyone, especially for people who have nothing left to lose, except themselves. What would you have done in that conference room? Would you have taken the money? Would you have been practical? Would you have listened to everyone telling you to be smart? Or would you have bet everything on yourself when you had nothing? Because that's the real question Rocky asks. Not can you fight, can you take a punch, can you go the distance, but can you refuse to sell yourself even when selling yourself solves all your immediate problems? Stallone answered that question, chose himself, chose Rocky, chose meaning over money, and that choice didn't just change his life, it changed what's possible, proved that sometimes the most irresponsible decision is the most responsible thing you can do. $25 million, the price of his soul. And Sylvester Stallone said no, that's not a transaction, that's a transformation. That's what happens when you decide that being yourself is worth more than any amount of money, even when yourself is broke, scared, and hanging by a thread. The movie on the screen might be Rocky, but the real underdog story happened in a conference room on the 18th floor, when a nobody writer refused to become a somebody sellout. When desperation met integrity, and integrity won. When one word, no, became the foundation for everything that followed. That's power. That's legacy. That's proof that you don't need money to make the right choice. You just need to know who you are and refuse to be anyone else, even when being someone else pays $25 million.